we programming languages such as Java, JavaScript, Ruby, Python, C Sharp, etc. And it will help you to automate web browser actions and retrieve information across the web pages. Okay, so this is brief about Selenium WebDriver. Selenium WebDriver consists of basically four components. First is a Selenium client library. Second is W3C WebDriver protocol. This is previously called as the JSON wire protocol. Then browser drivers, browser specific implementation of Selenium WebDrivers uh, that will help you to communicate. And last is the browser. So these four components makes a Selenium WebDriver architecture. Okay, and we will see each and every component in detail. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. Okay, first thing, okay, Selenium client libraries or Selenium language bindings. Okay, Selenium provides a support to multiple libraries or multiple programming languages such as Java, C Sharp, JavaScript, Python, and Ruby. Okay, and as I mentioned, right, it uses W3C WebDriver protocol or JSON wire protocol. So WebDriver 3, it used to have the JSON wire protocol, uh, and from Selenium 4 onwards, it's now W3C WebDriver protocol. Okay, and then comes the actual browser drivers. Okay, so Selenium browser drivers are nothing but the native, these are basically dependencies native to browsers and which allows you to interact with the actual browser by establishing a secure connection. So when I say establishing a secure connection, that is basically we are going to see in today's session. Okay, so Selenium supports different browsers such as Chrome driver, browser drivers, basically Chrome driver, Gecko driver, Edge driver, and Safari driver. Okay, and those drivers, communicate over uh, HTTP through a secure connection to pass on instruction to the actual browsers. Meaning your Gecko driver will communicate with your Firefox, Chrome driver will communicate with your Chrome, and Safari driver will communicate with your Safari browser. Okay, so this is the basic architectural flow or the architectural execution of Selenium WebDriver. Now, let's see a quick demo. Let's try to understand the first basic program, and then we will see how it basically internally works. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll quickly go to my IntelliJ, and so if you could see, right, this is pretty simple program. What basically it does is it creates an instance of Chrome driver. It opens a website, try to clear the text box, enters the value in the text box, password, clears the password text box, and enters some data into it and click on login button. Okay, let's try to run this code, and then maybe we'll see each and every command executes in the background. So if you could see, it has entered the username and password. Sorry, I think there is some issue with my script, so I'll just update that, and now let's run it again. Okay. So if you could see, it has entered username and password and it has performed the log. Pretty simple program. Now let's try to see how this basically internally works. Okay. So for that, what I'll do, I'll just close out this and I will open my Postman. Okay. Okay, so so basically, let me just go back again, and well, I'll explain you pretty simple command first. Okay, so whenever you say webdriver driver equal to new Chrome driver, what basically happens is it spin up a local Selenium server on your machine, and that instructs to actual browser that give me an instance of Chrome. Okay, launch a session for a Chrome. Okay, so let me just run that so that you will be clear. So if you could see, it has created a blank session for you on a Chrome. Okay, similarly, if you change it for Safari or Firefox, based on your code, it will execute that browser session. Okay, now let's try to see this each and every command what actually happens behind the scene. Okay, so let me just uh, you know try to open my Postman, and let me just try to open my Scratchpad. Okay, and first command. Okay, so for this, what we will do is I'll just go to my uh, command prompt, and what I'll do, I'll just uh, you know I'll try to run the Selenium server on my local machine. Okay, Selenium standalone server basically, and then maybe from there I'll explain you what exactly happens behind the scene. Okay, so just give me a second. I'll just okay. So let me just open up a terminal. So this is the folder where I have downloaded Selenium standalone jar basically. And what I'll do, I'll just execute the command selenium. So basically it will start a selenium grid on your local machine. Okay. So if you could see, it had started a jar on your local machine. So let me just quickly show you that as well by opening a browser localhost 444. So basically if you could see, the selenium grid had started on this particular port on your local machine. Yeah, I'll close out this browser as well so that we'll have a clear sessions for everything. Okay, now this is the pretty basic command. So when you say webdriver driver equal to new Chrome driver, what happens basically is it creates one API call, post API request basically, to create a session, and what it expects what browser you want it to execute. Okay, so if I execute this command now, or this post request, basically what it does, it creates a session. Okay, so if you could see, browser has opened. Now what I'll do, I'll just keep the screen side by side so that you will be able to see the execution in real time. Okay. The now next thing what we are saying over here is open a URL. Okay. So if I go to the request for it, right? So what it requires is a session ID. So how we'll get the session ID? Session ID will be part of your this request response. Okay, so this session ID has been stored in one variable, and that has been passed as a path variable. Okay, and what additional path variable path parameter we require is the URL. And how we are passing the URL? We are passing the URL in body. Okay, and if I execute this now, you will see a browser window with the URL you had specified is opened. Okay, now let's try to find out email. Okay, so what it needs is it needs a session, and what you wanted to do, I wanted to find the element. But how I wanted to find the element? I wanted to find the element using email ID, which is nothing but a CSS selector. Okay, and if I run this. So I think it's invalid. So it has given you error saying that no such element. So if I save this and if I run it, so you could see you had got a 200 status code and you got the element ID for that. Okay. Now similarly we'll try to find the password as well. Okay. So let's try to find the password. Okay. And what I'll do, I'll just copy this entire code, repeat it in the here. I will add it over here, and instead of email it will be a password. Okay. It's not get, it's a post. Okay. And so basically it's the same command which is above. Okay. And let's try to execute it. So the header has unknown content type JSON, so I'll just quickly remove that. And if I execute now, it has find out the password as well. Now let's try to interact with those text boxes. So if you could see, it has a blank, it has admin.yourstore.com. Let's say you wanted to clear this. If you hit this, we could see the text box has been cleared. So what is the thing that has been done internally? So whenever you say you wanted to clear the text box, right? This particular API call goes and it clears out the text box for you. What it needs a session, it needs an element ID, and what operations you wanted to perform is nothing but to clear the text box. Similarly, you do it for the uh, password as well. Okay, so I think we had not stored that element variable, so we'll do what we'll do. I'll just quickly add that as well, so that it will be stored for the password. Okay, I'll paste it, and here what we'll do, say get password. Okay, and we'll execute this again. Okay, and now let's try to clear out the password. So if you could see the text box, both the text boxes are now cleared. Now let's try to set an email. So if you could see, I entered a text into a text box. Okay. So when you execute this particular command, send keys command, the API call goes and it adds a value to that particular text box. Okay. Now let's try to set the password. Similarly, it does the action for you. Okay. Now let's say you wanted to find the login button. Okay. So again, the same process. Element, what it needs session ID and followed by the element. You execute this, it has find out this particular element. Now let's try to click on that particular button. So what it you need to perform an action click. So once you do this, what it will do basically is it will you know click on login and it will open you the dashboard. Okay, so this is pretty basic program, and how basically each and every command internally works. So it's basically a API call goes to your Selenium server, and Selenium server actually passes it to your actual browser instance. Okay, and most of the things that as a Selenium user, what used to do, we used to take a screenshot. Okay, so the command for it is you need a session ID followed by a screenshot. Okay, so whenever you execute this particular command, it returns you a base 64 encoded string. Okay, and so you can see whether it is giving you an image or not. You can validate it using I'll just quickly show you that as well. So I'll just say base 64 decode. Okay, so If I paste that particular string over here, okay, there is a double quote. Let me just try to copy the entire thing again. Okay, so these are the additional characters because of which it was not clearly showing. So if you could see, it has giving you that particular screenshot. Okay, so basically this is internally how it is done. So whenever you say you write your method right to save an image, basically this base64 string has been used and it has been converted into file stream and you save it into a actual file. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it I wanted to cover. Okay, for the session. Um, Let me just go back to my presentation again. Give me a minute. So that's it for the session. Happy Testers Day and thank you.